Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Retail Reset virtual forum session titled Store Operations Lessons Learned from an Essential Retailer, How Big Lots Addressed COVID-19 Challenges. I'm Debbie House, Executive Director of Content for Retail Touchpoints, and I'm thrilled to be joined by four fantastic executives today, three from Big Lots who are going to talk through how their essential business has responded during the COVID-19 crisis and how they're moving toward recovery. And we're also going to hear from an executive from Reflexis. Today, these are our speakers. We're going to hear from Nick Padovano, SVP of Store Operations at Big Lots. We're going to hear from Monica Welt, VP of Compliance, Linda Klein, who's VP of Store Operations, and also Kevin Tapscott, VP Solution Consulting Americas for Reflexis. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us today. So before we get into the primary discussion, we're going to just hear a little bit on a high level about Big Lots and also about Reflexis. So Nick, can you fill us in a little bit on the Big Lots business?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, Big Lots is a national retail chain with about 1,400 stores across the country. We're in 47 of the 50 states. We have a unique assortment focused on all things related to the home, with a good assortment of food and consumable products that allowed us to be designated as an essential retailer. We carry thousands of SKUs of everyday essential product that is auto-replenished, as well as a great assortment of soft home, seasonal, and furniture. We refer to ourselves as your neighborhood discount store. We have 20 to 25 associates per store, inclusive of the store leadership team, with stores in mainly neighborhood shopping centers and power centers. When this pandemic started, we realized quickly we had a key role to play to support our associates and our customers.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Nick. Kevin, give us a high-level overview of Reflexis.
Sure, happy to. Thanks for having us. I'm glad to be here today. Reflexis is the global leader in simplifying operations for retailers. We're proud to have Big Lots and nearly 300 leading retail brands as customers and part of our family. Our solution is cloud-based and module-based, and it's a platform completely architected and built by us to work together seamlessly. So from workload planning to task management to AI-driven workforce management to a built-in analytics package, we streamline operations for retailers end-to-end. And we appreciate the opportunity to share information with others today in partnership with a truly outstanding retailer in Big Lots.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin. So let's start with talking a little bit about how Big Lots is addressing the COVID-19 challenge. Nick, can you fill us in on what have been your main goals and priorities during this challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when this pandemic first hit and it became really clear what we were dealing with, as a company, we quickly formed a task force made up of our senior leadership team, along with what we call a core team of key leaders from HR, legal, and asset protection. As we began to understand the challenges of being an essential retailer and being open to the public, our priorities became very clear. Number one, it was the safety of our associates and our customers. And then secondly, it was about business continuity in an uncertain time. So we landed on like three main objectives that's kind of supported those two priorities. And this really has guided us from the very beginning. First, we looked at what are all the actions that we had to take or could take within the stores to improve the safety of the environment for both our associates and our customers. So examples being things like cleaning regimens and social distancing guides and signing, occupancy limits, health screenings, and you'll hear a lot more about these things from our team in a few minutes. Secondly, it was about supporting our customers and our associates. And supporting is a little different than taking like cleaning action. We're talking about things like, associates who, through no fault of their own, found themselves dealing with the public at the start of a pandemic, something we'd all never really lived through in our lifetimes. So we started with, some basic things like making compensation changes with our hourly rates and our store bonus programs to be sure our associates had confidence and to help their families, because many of their family members were quickly becoming unemployed. So we raised our hourly rate by $2. We more or less did discretionary bonuses for our stores. We did things like we closed on Easter for the first time in over 20 years, just to give our people a break. They were pretty tired by then. That was right after the huge hyper shopping that took place when this all started. And then we looked at changes we could make for our customers, and specifically around our marketing. And we changed our marketing to focus on essential needs products. And we reworked the marketing approach, promotional approach, to move away from those things that kind of create crowds with large promotions to basically being able to give the customers the choice of when they wanted to come in to take an advantage of a promotion. So my example would be that we run, like many retailers, a quarterly friends and family, 20% off everything in the store. It's clearly our biggest days of the quarter. And instead of doing that, we offered the customer a spend it your own way coupon that she could use across the whole month of April that really allowed her to choose when she would come in. That was like the right thing to do. And just, again, an example of some of the things we started to think differently about our responsibility in helping everybody feel comfortable shopping. The third thing that we did, and it's probably, the most important thing that we did, was communication. Everything to do about communication. It just has to be a top priority. And things were changing daily at the very beginning of this pandemic, and our people needed direction. And most importantly, they needed to know that they were supported and not alone. There are a number of things we started back in mid-March that we're still doing today and will continue to do for the foreseeable future. Again, you're going to hear about a lot of these, but an example would be I send out a daily message every day to all stores. That's 7 days a week, and that's shared with the entire team. And that message is meant to keep them up to speed on things we are doing to support and protect them. And again, to ensure they know we are there for them. Oftentimes, we'll include a video message, and we also have an email box we set up where they could send in questions to me, things that are on their mind about the business, and we answer all those questions every day. Another key component of communication is from the point of view of understanding what's happening on the regulatory front, considering that every day we were kind of being bombarded with new executive orders from states and cities and even counties. And keeping up with this and keeping our stores up to speed on the varied and different rules they had to deal with has been a daunting task. We've had just fantastic support from our legal team, where we have same-day service from the time that an order is sent up to them to read to the time they turn it around as far as direction for our stores. And it's really important because, again, the stores felt supported. Plus, they're not experts on reading these more kind of legal documents. So this is a good time here for me to turn it over to Monica Welt, our Vice President of Compliance, who will share with you some more information about how we've adapted and created new policies through this. Over to you, Monica.
Thanks so much, Nick. Now, and Nick alluded to some of the other things we have done, as we focused on the policies and procedures. And when you think about a large organization with stores in nearly every state, we are pretty good on staying on top of things, but typically you have more notice than 24 hours to address things. But that's the way that things were rolling in with this unprecedented situation. And we understand that local, state, municipal entities were trying to do their best to keep folks safe. But there was a lot of education that had to be done. So as we were addressing policies, we decided first and foremost, we knew our people. We got information to figure out how to keep our people safe and use that as a guiding principle all along. So, one of the things Nick alluded to was having sort of this core group that I'm a part of, as well as the leadership team, and having everyone in the room on a regular basis really allowed us to be nimble. In these situations, obviously we weren't all in the room, but interestingly enough, in this time of increased video conferencing, I really think it has been to the benefit of our company and how we've reacted. We started out with a cadence of every morning at 8 o'clock, 7 days a week, and we had all the right people on the phone across all divisions of the company, which allowed us to raise some of these issues up, provide a recommendation, and make a decision on things that, in other instances, maybe we would have run a trial, we would have run a test in a couple dozen stores. Here we realized we did not have the time to test things out. We needed to respond quickly. And we were also, importantly enough, we were empowered to make the right decisions and to not let perfection be the enemy of the good. And from the very top levels, they said, look, do your best, do what you think is right, keep the safety of our associates and our customers as sort of our guiding light on this. And we understand everything might not be perfect, but let's make decisions and let's make them fast and keep going. And I think it really did help us respond to, what sort of policies and procedures we needed to put in place. So much so that in many instances we were able to get out ahead of some of the regulators. So one of the things we did early on was we hired a medical consulting expert with deep expertise in the U.S. military, as well as advising other corporations on pandemic and community viral outbreaks. So he was able to help us sort of see around corners, understand what was going to be coming down with respect to recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control, and also give his recommendation on what needed to be done. And interestingly enough, that allowed us to put some policies and procedures in place that we still have that made it less disruptive as we saw the states and municipalities start to catch up. So we actually on our own decided to put in occupancy restriction far more restrictive than we've seen in many states. And it has served us well because we were able to roll this out because we saw it as the right thing to keep the number of shoppers at a level in the stores that would make our associates feel safer and not feel overwhelmed. Because we knew that there would be instances where folks would see trucks pulling up and there would be a scramble for these essentials of water and toilet paper and cleaning supplies. But we wanted our associates to be able to deal with those. So we instituted restrictions on shoppers that we've held in place, even where they've been lifted elsewhere. We also put cleaning regimens in place under the good guidance of our outside medical expert very early on, well before we were hearing this, across the public, that it probably had a pretty deep asymptomatic spread, meaning that more people had the virus and could be spreading it than were necessarily exhibiting symptoms. So we should act like 50% of the population was spreading the virus and start cleaning like crazy and don't stop. So we instituted very early on a 24-point high-touch cleaning regimen, and Linda will talk about it more later. But we then saw as regulators and inspectors would come in several weeks after we had instituted this to see what we were doing, to see if we were following their new regulations that they had put in maybe a few days before. Our folks were well comfortable with it. They were like, oh, we've been doing this for weeks. We've been cleaning. Here's what we've been doing. We've been regulating people. We've had things marked out to keep the social distancing. And I think all of that, to Nick's point about communication, really empowered our store personnel so that they felt like we were responding to their concerns, trying to see around corners, and at all times keeping them safe. And we have talked extensively about our stores, but we put these in across our organization. We have 5 distribution centers across the United States, as well as a corporate headquarters, typically with over 800 people in it. So, as we were addressing all of this, we were addressing all parts of the organization. So, again, to think about this as unprecedented, but understanding that it was also an opportunity for us to do our best work. I have been so proud to be part of this group, to see the sort of decisions we can make when we put all our right people in the room, when we're nimble, and when we're guided by the right principles of keeping our folks safe. So, for folks who may not have been as familiar with Big Lots before this conversation today or haven't seen our ads, I know we're going to show one of the videos that we had our marketing group put together very early on, not only to remind the public that we were open as an essential retailer who had food and essentials and cleaning supplies that they needed, but also preview some of the things that we were doing in our stores very early on to keep them safe and to keep our associates safe as well.
Thanks, Monica, and thanks to Nick also. Sounds like you guys have definitely had all the bases covered in great detail from the very beginning. So it's an inspiration for everyone. And as Monica said, we're going to, before we move on and go into more detail about each of the initiatives, we're going to share a quick video that shows Big Lots' efforts during this crisis.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. Now the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see.
I just always love to watch that video. It's such a great inspiration, and I think it's just a wonderful way to introduce the rest of the conversation that we're going to have today. So we're going to move on to talking about how Big Lots has addressed health and safety. I'm going to ask Linda to join us now and talk about what you've been doing to keep your employees and your customers safe.
Okay, great. Thank you. Happy to be here. So as Monica said, health and safety is our guiding light and certainly has always been our #1 priority and will continue to be. As many, we've had to put new policies and processes into place very quickly to adhere to a lot of the CDC guidelines. And as Monica mentioned, one of the first things we did put into place in stores is what we call a 24-point cleaning checklist. And this includes every touch point in the store, from the door handles to the shopping carts, our baskets, counters, you name it. So that was one of the first things. That is a daily regimen throughout the day. Our associates wear gloves, use special cleaner that we've provided, and that is ongoing for the safety of everyone, including we also installed safety shields, protective shields at our registers, again, to maintain that safety. We provided safety training for all of our associates just to better prepare them for some of the things that were coming up that were out of the norm, including how to handle disruptive behaviors. So early on, we did experience some concerns over, the items that were being purchased, and therefore also put some limits on some of those key items, such as paper and cleaning supplies. We addressed all aspects of social distancing through signage, as Nick spoke to, as well as just training our associates. So whether it was occupancy guidance, social distancing, the 6 feet rule. We also put floor tape and now decals around the register area just to help customers understand that 6-foot distance. We've put into place mandatory health screens. So every one of our associates, when they come into work, whether it's at the store or DC, is asked a series of questions related to COVID symptoms. And we also ask them to self-temperature check prior to coming into the store. We do have thermometers we're sending to stores, so we'll be able to do that piece as well. But mandatory health screens are just one more thing that we've put into place. We established senior hour. Like many other retailers, we wanted to make sure that our more vulnerable customers had that time that they could come in and shop our stores when they were a little bit less crowded, so they could feel more comfortable shopping. We adjusted store hours in some cases, so where there was any concern about safety on behalf of our customers or associates, we adjusted store hours accordingly. We implemented curbside pickup, so we do have buy online, pick up in store, and to help our customers be able to pick up their items without coming in, we implemented the curbside pickup. We also put in place some restrictions on home delivery. So we do have third-party delivery service for a lot of our upholstery items. And we did ask that our delivery companies do not cross the threshold of our customer's home for both their safety and our customer safety as well. We established limits on some of those high demand items, so the paper products and cleaning items. And we also tightened up our return policy around that. We've just opened that back up effective May 1st, but with very strict guidelines. So when returns come back to the store, the teams are asked to clean those items before putting them back out on the shelf. And or if it's upholstery, we're asking them to place those items in the back room for about 72 hours, just as a precaution for, again, our customers who are coming in to purchase those items. We closed off water fountains. We suspended rentals on our rug doctor and our Bissell machines. We have a message that plays throughout the day on our PA system, thanking our customers for adhering to the social distancing guidelines and just how much we appreciate their business and are looking out for their health and safety. And then effective May 1st, we put a policy into play that every associate and DC employee, as well as our corporate office, is to wear a mandatory mask. We are also requiring that of any of our outside vendors that come in. So that policy is in effect and everybody is wearing a mandatory mask at this point. So there's a number of other things. Those are some of the key policies and practices that we've put into place most recently. And again, we'll adjust as we need to. So again, top priority, absolutely our focus is health and safety.
That's great. Thank you so much for that detailed overview, Linda. That's terrific. So Monica, can you jump back in and let us know, are there new compliance issues that have emerged during the crisis? And how are you able to stay compliant? Monica?
Thanks so much. That's a great question. So as Nick mentioned early on, with the speed at which things were coming in and new regulations were coming to our attention, first finding out about those, our stores were on the front line many times in forwarding those to us, as well as the various trade associations which we are members to. But getting them is really just the first step, and then the analysis and then interacting with the local folks implementing them was super important. So we did put sort of a legal SWAT team into place that owned that, and found that to be super helpful for our stores, that they knew who to talk to if we had someone come in and challenge how we were executing on a regulation, if we had a local municipality that maybe had put a restriction in place about our being open and not understanding that we were an essential retailer, or restricting the categories of things we could sell. Having a very experienced legal team who could reach out and speak on those issues again and again, we found to be very effective. And in many instances as well, we were also able to, get through to those smaller municipalities and help them understand that we really were providing an essential service and are providing an essential service to their constituents. They may not have understood that we just don't sell furniture, that we sell all of these essential items, and the percentage at which we were selling them once the coronavirus pandemic really became something that we were all dealing with helped make our case. So we were able to take that off the store's plates so that they had someone who could speak with a concerted voice with authority from our headquarters and allow them to focus on executing all of these safety measures that we had put into place in the stores. And we got great feedback from the stores on that as well. The other thing that we did too, and I alluded to this a little bit, was by making decisions early on and deciding that we weren't going to wait for the regulators in each state, in each municipality, to put safety measures in place. By getting ahead of those, some might have looked at that and said, well, why are you restricting the number of shoppers before you have to? Why don't you wait until, a state or someone says you need to? Because we were guided by the safety of our associates, that really did serve us well. And we have kept those, for instance, the restrictions on the number of shoppers in place because we do see it as a safety measure. And probably will keep it in place for some time. But because we made those decisions early on, it became very easy for our legal SWAT team to go back and look at the new regulation and compare it against everything we were doing and say, check the box, tell our field team, nope, you guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, let us know. But you should already be doing everything you need to. And again, I think that gave them great assurance that we had their safety in mind, and we're really trying to stay in front of things. And Nick's daily communications, I think, really did that a lot. You think about just, you as a member of the public and this feeling so new and things being so different and unsettled. when you get more information and it's sort of steady, solid information, that helps you feel like the folks who are in charge know what they're doing. And I think we were really able to project that to our field. But also, we were responsive when we got questions that we hadn't anticipated. We saw some of our peers putting restrictions into place on, as Linda mentioned, about the returns, quickly addressed whether or not that made sense for us as well, and then saw some of the regulations follow that too. And then finally, on the issue of getting ahead of things that have become regulations, we also decided to restrict the use of reusable bags and the redemption of bottles and cans for the deposit returns. That was identified by our medical team very early on, both of those as health hazards for our store associates. And we knew that there was a potential that we could have regulators who would not agree with that because in places they had not yet issued announcements that they would suspend enforcement of those regulations. But because we decided safety really was what we were focused on as a legal team and leadership, we said, look, if I have to battle that fight, I will battle it. If someone comes in and says, why aren't you redeeming cans? Call me, we will take care of it. And again, it was one more instance of helping the team focus in the stores on being safe and delivering the service they needed to our customers.
That's great, Monica. And I think that, having such a detailed plan up front and getting ahead of the game made it so much less confusing for everyone in, all the different states that you have stores in. Are there any specific practices that you plan to continue as you move into the next phase toward recovery post COVID-19 that are going to focus on keeping employees and customers safe?
Now, Linda and I can both speak to this, but we've seen that a lot of the safety practices are going to stay. When we were rolling this out so quickly, and there were points where we were sending out new signs to our stores nearly every day. And at one point, we had a good field leader send us a picture of one of the doors, and it was peppered over with all of the various safety signs that we pushed out. So again, working fast, not letting perfection be the enemy of the good. But once we felt we had things a little bit more under control, we were able to task our store presentation and marketing team with pulling those together into more on-brand messaging. And we were able to, I think, probably reduce the signs by half and look at the signs that would be more long-term, such as the social distancing, such as the cart wipes, the occupancy. And those signs, frankly, now look a lot more permanent. They're not printed on black and white paper. They're in our brand colors. And you will probably see those up for quite some time until something changes dramatically, because even as states are lifting some of the stay-at-home orders, there still is the social distancing that is in effect. We will keep the health guards up. We will keep the spacing up. All of these continue to help increase the safety for our shoppers and for our associates. Linda, I'm sure you have a few other things too.
Yeah, no, I think you called out most of them. I mean, I think this is going to be our new norm. So a lot of what we are doing now, we will continue doing, and we'll continue to enhance service levels as well. So bringing into our stores Instacart and ship from store, and just enhancing that service level that goes along with some of the other things like curbside pickup, et cetera. But I think we're going to remain nimble. We're going to react accordingly, but much of what we're seeing now is definitely here to stay for a while. We do have some things that will continue to come in to help support, such as we have the thermometers coming in so that we can truly take that temperature and not rely on our associates to have to do it themselves. But many of these practices, including the cleaning, will be ongoing. That's just going to be part of our daily regimen. So yeah, this is our new norm, and we'll continue on this path.
All right, terrific. Thanks so much, Monica and Linda. I'd like to ask Kevin to jump in and just fill us in a little bit on how Big Lots and other retailers are using Reflexis tools to address these health and safety challenges.
Yeah, sure, you bet. So really impressive listening to the Big Lots team and how they tackle these important issues, especially around health and safety. I'm kind of struck by the volume of change that they and other retailers had to deal with, as well as the speed at which this change takes place. And when you think about what Reflexis does for retailers, it is to simplify and make that an easier process. So all of our customers use task management to provide a single place for leaders to go to see what they need to do from a task or project standpoint. It's a platform, so a click away could be a module we call Q Docs for documentation, and a click away from that could be Q Forms for forms. So when you put that in the context of health and safety, we heard a lot about cleaning and a 24-point checklist in Big Lots case. Other retailers, very similar processes, and they are receiving tasks through task management at the store level. They're able to get notifications that perhaps a document, a policy, or a procedure has changed, and that's maintained in document repository. If they needed to order more cleaning supplies, they can do that very easily through Q Forms, which is an electronic form that routes the forms to where those could be ordered from. And so that's kind of the structure of the platform and how it simplifies something like those health changes. We also, when the COVID crisis began, were able to provide a product called Q-Check, which is an electronic checklist to help facilitate things like the Big Lots 24-point checklist. And it just simplifies it, and it enables retailers to actually measure their compliance on something that's so important to the health and safety of their employees and their customers. So a few examples of how our platform helps simplify the experience for retailers who are working so hard to try to keep up with all the volume and the speed of change that's happening at store level.
All right, great. Thanks so much for that overview, Kevin. So before we move on to the next topic, I just want to remind our audience that if you have questions for our speakers, please feel free to type them in. We're going to have a little bit of a Q&A at the end of the session, but if we're not able to get to your question, our speakers can follow up with you afterwards. So please feel free to send your questions in, and we'll try to address them at the end. So the next topic that we're going to cover is communication, and we've heard, from what we've heard from our speakers so far, it's extremely important when we're dealing with a crisis like this. So, Linda, I'm going to ask you if you can fill us in on how Big Lots has been addressing communication during the crisis.
Sure, absolutely. So obviously, we know communication is so critical, and especially during times like this. So, Kevin, actually, I just want to start and tag on to a couple of the things that you said in regard to Reflexis, because we've definitely leveraged Reflexis to communicate to our stores, our directives, our task manager system, anything COVID related. So it's been a great platform for us to organize and manage our communication to the field. And you mentioned a couple of other things. One thing is we are testing at the moment with plans to roll this is the Q Chat, which is going to help us engage our associates throughout the company, so that we see that as another great platform for us, as well as we love the Reflexis labor management system, specifically the shift swapping. So we know that there's been a lot of challenging times for our associates as well, and they've had to make some last minute shift swaps, and that platform has allowed them to do that very easily. We're also looking at Q-Check, as you noted. Most definitely think the 24-point cleaning checklist is one of those tools that we could use through Q-Check. Also our manager on duty checklist. So there's a number of different things that we can leverage through that. And then in addition, I think just gatekeeping. That's been a huge win for us through Reflexis as well, because we know that there's a lot going on in stores, and communication is coming at them from various places sometimes. So this has allowed us to streamline and make sure that the communication going out to the field is absolute priority communication, and kind of eliminates all the noise. So the platform has really allowed us to use it in that way. The things that we're also doing within Big Lots is the daily cascade of team calls. So early on, we did start those calls 7 days a week, went to 5, and now we have them 3 days a week. It's a cascade of calls that starts at 8 a.m. With our CEO and President, Bruce Thorn, a task force, and all of our senior and key leaders. And we cover everything from COVID-related topics to what our supply chain looks like, supplies related to COVID, transportation, staffing, you name it. And then that gets cascaded all the way down from that senior level call to individual department calls. So in my case, with my store ops team. And then we engage the whole field leadership along with our office partners on a call that cascades that same information to them and allows them to share anything from the field perspective they want to share with us. And then in turn, they're doing the same thing with their field teams all the way down to the stores. So we're engaging everyone at all levels throughout the week continuously. We also established a hotline. So any associate in the company that has any COVID-19 concern, perhaps some symptoms they're experiencing or someone in their family might be, or even a positive test, there's an opportunity for them to leverage the hotline. And then we quickly get on a call with our task force and the appropriate leadership, and we take action. And that action might look like someone needing to self-quarantine. Sometimes it might be additional cleaning requirements in a store where, we want to bring in a third party on top of the everyday cleaning that we are already doing just to help everyone feel more comfortable. The same day service process, I think Nick alluded to, that's between our legal team and the field organization so that they can bubble up and communicate all of those state and local ordinances and requirements. And I know that they were coming fast and furiously, so this was a great opportunity for us to be able to all understand what the requirements were and take action right away. Nick and Monica both spoke to the daily email from Nick 7 days a week. It's a great inspirational message, reminder about different topics, including cleaning, safety, as well as recognition for our associates. So we have people just going above and beyond in the field. And we've taken an opportunity through Nick's email, as well as some other ways in the company to really celebrate those frontline heroes, if you will, at our Big Lots locations. We also are sending out weekly video messages from Bruce Thorn, President and CEO, Nick, all of our key leaders, and we rotate those videos going out to the team. Just, again, inspirational messages, reminders, thanking them. And again, just, keeping them very engaged and informed. And then individual calls were also made to all 1,400 stores. So we had our home office staff all place phone calls to the 1,400 store teams just to simply say thank you for everything that they're doing every single day to take care of each other and to take care of their customers. We are leveraging also our point of sale system. So we have what's called a weekly message. It's now a daily message where anyone in our store, any of the associates, can actually view a video or a message right there at the point of sale at the registers. And then Nick and I hold what we call a store team leader panel weekly call, and that's some of our top leadership out in the field from each region. And we host a very open forum call with them, sharing information back and forth. And as a result, we are now starting what we're calling fireside chats with Bruce Thorn, Nick, and myself, and those are being held every other week, and we are scheduled throughout the year for all 1,400 store team leaders to engage in those calls. So again, communication is absolutely key, and we're doing everything we can to engage our teams, keep them informed, and celebrate some of the great things that are happening out there in spite of these challenging times.
That's fantastic, Linda. It's obviously, you guys have been involved in a lot of communication initiatives, and both human-based and also technology-based. And I want to go back just a little bit to a couple of the technology tools that you mentioned at the beginning and ask Kevin maybe to fill us in a little bit more on a couple of those tools that Linda mentioned at the beginning. Kevin?
Yeah, sorry. So when we started as a task management company in 2001, it was really about helping retailers streamline corporate to store communication. And retail has grown a lot. It's grown a lot faster and more complex. And so we just released and Linda spoke to this, a solution called QCOM, which has a chat capability that allows for retailers to, for those communication needs that are faster than daily communications that need to take place between district managers and stores, or even store to store. Retailers are looking for a sanctioned, manageable solution as opposed to the one-off nature that we see today of SMS and WhatsApp and other tools that are used frequently, but they're not really manageable and they're not sanctioned. So we developed what we call QCOM, which has a chat and then kind of a note or mail capability that allows for retailers to give their employees a solution that they can create favorites, they can create groups. It's tied to their hierarchy, so those groups are logical from a role perspective. You can create channels, so you might have a marketing or a new news channel that people could choose to join. So it's a very robust solution. And we actually, during the COVID crisis, offered it to a number of our customers to use to see if it could help them, during the crisis. And we found that both, first of all, they took us up on it. And we found that both types of retailers, essential and non-essential, were in need of a solution like that. So essential retailers like Big Lots have all the change we've been talking about that they need to deal with, and a quick chat type capability that's manageable and sanctioned is very beneficial to retailers that are open and dealing with the business changes. On the other side, those deemed non-essential, they're still planning to reopen. A lot of them are reopening now. And while they're closed, their district managers still need to talk to their store managers and make them aware of how things are looking and what the process would be to get back open. So we were proud to be able to offer that. And like I said, retailers took us up on that throughout the crisis. And we feel like it's a great reflection of how we continue to try to invest to help make retailers' communication that much easier, especially in situations like this.
Terrific.
If I may,
Thank you.
I know it's one of more of the foundational tools, but as the person who's in charge of compliance and legal and all of our recalls, I love that we can track when the stores have executed on a recall, executed on one of these essential cleaning tasks, responded about whether or not they have the cleaning supplies we need. I love that record. So the legal nerd in me is very happy about that. So thank you again.
That's great. Thanks, Monica. All right, so we're going to move on to our next topic, which is business continuity. And I'm going to ask Nick to join us and talk about the importance of having a business continuity plan in place during this crisis, and also as you move through into recovery. Sure.
Yeah. I think the name of the game for business continuity is being able to reprioritize, because everything that was planned, back last fall or last summer for 2020 and all those great strategic initiatives, you got to stand back and look at them all again. We all have those great initiatives in place. And I think what we've done and what I'd suggest to anybody is total focus needs to be on supporting the stores, ensuring that they have everything they need to operate safely, because that's where the action is right now. So prioritizing is key. You have to, I think, look at putting projects on hold that take your eye off that main focus. We doubled down on task manager gatekeeping to ensure that stores were not being given tasks that just did not make sense right now. And we slowed down or just stopped rollouts until our field leadership teams felt it made sense. And some of them, we were really excited about, but again, it was reprioritizing and knowing what we had to do to keep the business running well. Total company alignment's needed here. And as Monica said, these daily task force meetings that we've been having with the entire leadership allowed us to get that cross-functional alignment. And the good news, I think, is something like this, most people rally and come to the table. I would tell you another thing on business continuity has been very closely monitoring our stores with selling restrictions, and there weren't many. But there are many situations where your normal operating hours may have been limited or needed to be changed. And we wanted to make sure we did this in a smart way where we were able to redirect resources to maybe support other stores that weren't restricted in any way and maybe seeing more business. So that, again, maximizing the productivity of each store, which you didn't hear me say that being our number 1 or 2 priority, but obviously as good operators and business continuity, we didn't want to miss opportunities there. Our merchant and allocation teams completely changed their view, and it was all about key items. We quickly all understood exactly what the key items were in the stores, and they started to immediately work with the vendor community and quickly reprioritize where their buying dollars were going. And it's easy. Categories that you'll be surprised with kind of bubble up all of a sudden. They become very important. Maybe they weren't your kind of top 10 prior to this thing, and all of a sudden they become top 10. And I think it can be very different by retailer. So carefully listening to the stores, understanding what the customers want and need, and being able to react to that. We did things like, the whole toilet paper craze at one point. We were doing massive milk runs to stores outside of our normal kind of, routing of trucks just because the need was there. And we had the goods in our distribution center. So, again, an example. And then lastly, I would say that from a business continuity point of view, things like this happen and, you immediately start to spend money, right? We needed to get cleaning supplies. We needed to get gloves and masks. And there wasn't a question about go and do it, like get it done. And yeah, there's expenses there, but you have to monitor and understand that. How are you looking at other things to offset that? So I'll give you an example. With many of the shelter-in-place rules, we saw our travel costs drop dramatically, but we couldn't stop seeing stores. We needed to know what was going on. So we had just deployed Microsoft Teams, and just by chance, it had just deployed about 3 weeks before this all started. And all our stores have iPads, so we learned how to do virtual visits. And it was absolutely fantastic. It really helped us to, again, stay close with the stores, see what was going on, but maybe not being able to fly there to see it ourselves personally. So, your finance group is key during this to just be looking around the corners, looking for every opportunity to keep your balance sheet strong. And that will require maybe deferring some projects or making different choices, but it's the right thing to do until this all starts to settle down.
Thanks, Nick. That's terrific. I'd just like to ask Kevin real quick to jump in and talk to us a little bit about how Reflexis can help with some of the initiatives that Nick was talking about regarding business continuity.
Sure. So with all of the change that Nick and the rest of the Big Lots team have been talking about, to protect the employees, and we've talked a lot about the changes and that might be affecting them outside of the workplace. On the workforce side, employee self-service for the frontline employees is something that is part of our platform that stuck out to me over the past 2 months as something that was crucial. What we call employee self-service, or ESS, just from a continuity standpoint, does for retailers is it connects employees to the labor process. So when things are fluctuating, business is fluctuating, so schedules are fluctuating. Those fluctuations might require more staff, less staff, but certainly communication, notification, and visibility. So our ESS solution has been critical to a lot of our customers, our workforce management customers, so that the employees can receive a push notification on their device if their schedule has changed, if there's a shift that they can pick up. We were mentioning earlier about how important being able to swap a shift is. Those types of things can help speed up or streamline those processes where if you're doing them manually, it can be a time suck for management. It can be frustrating for employees, and it's an aspect of our solution that's been key for our customers.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. So we're going to move into our last discussion before we have a brief Q&A, and we want to talk about lessons learned. And Nick, as retailers are moving through this crisis and into recovery, obviously, a lot of retailers will be able to learn a lot from what Big Lots has done. What are some of the lessons learned that you think business leaders should be aware of and keep in mind as they're moving toward recovery?
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, it's the importance and strength of organizational focus and the ability for the whole organization to rally. And that starts with the senior team of the company communicating and leading what the focus needs to be. I'm sure we can agree when we get our organizations all following one path, it's amazing what we can do. And it really starts with the CEO. And we are very fortunate to have Bruce Thorne at our helm. And from day one, Bruce is the one that said, we got to get that task force started. And it immediately set the tone. And another point would be have the courage to make the imperfect decisions. We've said this a few times. And with a crisis like this, you do not have the time to test and pilot and roll out actions with that same rigor and time frames that companies would typically use with doing something new. Monica had a great example with all the signing. We had to get those signs out. And then later we realized, okay, that doesn't look great. And we were able to go back and make it look better. Having the legal team, reviewing every executive order. I can't tell you how important that will continue to be. Stores don't know how to read legalese. And sometimes there's key words in there that a store may miss, like recommending something to do is very different than having to do it. And sometimes a store would read something and say, oh, we've all got to start to do this. And we'd read it with them and say, no, it's just recommended you need to. So it allows you to keep control of your business. A fourth point would just be like how people just step up and how if you let them, people across the organization will step up when they need to. They'll rally. And I couldn't be more happier with our store team leaders who have not just stepped up, but they're like, they're counseling their people, right? They're not just giving them direction, but they're there supporting them and listening to them. And it's almost like a social worker approach in many respects because people need that leader to turn to. I'll give you another example of people stepping up. There was a point in time when we had to hire just hundreds and hundreds of people. People were getting sick and so forth and just scared to work, so they weren't coming to work. And we've ended up hiring thousands of people in the last 8 weeks. But our stores were, very busy. So at our corporate office, Linda and leaders in our HR group got about 40 people who never do interviews or anything else like that. And we started to do the interviews from the office, all those first screenings, and basically sending people to the stores for the job. And it took out, 7 of the 10 steps. And we just streamlined that whole thing. That's, again, being nimble and having people step up. And lastly, I know we've said it a million times, but communication is the key. And it's that a consistent cadence in communication and just realize you can never over communicate. The stores feel lost in the desert in something like this and alone, and they just function better when they know you're there. Those are the things we've learned. And I'm sure there's 10 more, but those are the big ones.
Those are great. And I think the first one that you brought up was having the right leaders in place. And from the CEO down, it's obvious that Big Lots has had the right leaders in place all the way through the organization. So, I think that's been the real difference, how you've succeeded through this. So I want to have time for a question or two. We're going to run out of time soon. So we're going to ask the Big Lots team one question and Kevin one more question before we wrap up. But remember that if you had a specific question, please feel free to send it in and they will be able to reach out to you afterwards. So first, I'm just going to ask the Big Lots team, and I think, Monica, you might want to address this. Just what are the next areas of focus in terms of customer and associate safety as the economy is starting to reopen?
No, that's a great question. I think realistically, people are going to continue to work from home and continue to social distance. And as we've said a couple times, we think this is our new normal. So helping to educate the customers about what this new normal means, and not only the steps that we're taking to help keep them safe, but the steps that they can also do to help keep themselves safe when they're shopping, whether in our store or anyone else's store. That's really important. And while, some of the stores on the coast, people may be, more familiar with it already, this is something that we want to help everyone understand and everyone, be part of. So, as Linda mentioned, masks are mandatory for all of our associates for the foreseeable future, whether in our stores, our DCs, or our headquarters, and helping our shoppers understand why they're wearing those masks, why they might want to wear the masks themselves, what they want to do, what we're doing to help them clean, the supplies we have for them if they want to clean their cart some more, why we're asking them to stay apart. All of that education is really important. But as Linda mentioned too, as these are weird times and people are stressed, and helping our stores deal with that stress with the shoppers that come in is another tool that we will continue to arm our associates with. The de-escalation tactics and just de-escalation scripts that we've shared out. So when two shoppers get mad at each other because someone is not staying 6 feet apart, or someone doesn't understand why they can't buy 25 packs of toilet paper, or don't understand why, even though our truck just came in, why we still don't have cleaning supplies. Everyone's stressed, but the more tools that we can give our store teams to communicate calmly with our shoppers when they come in, that will continue to be more of what we're doing. And as the next stressor changes, those communications will be updated. But helping everyone learn why this is our new normal will probably be the next phase of what we're doing. Now that we're comfortable with it, let's help our shopper be comfortable with it too.
That's great. Yeah. The importance of de-escalating, being aware of all the stress that everyone is under is so important. So thank you. Kevin, we have maybe in a minute, if you can address this next question. As retailers are starting to reopen, are there other Reflexis tools that they should consider that they're able to use as they're reopening?
You bet. So I'll try to cover this quickly. Reflexis Appointments is a solution that we actually added some additional functionality to at the beginning of the COVID crisis to be able to handle these new scenarios that retailers and shoppers are constructing in order to facilitate healthy shopping. So there's three things. One is appointments that retailers may set up for customers to come to the store only under an appointment, or maybe it's an option for them to come to the store and shop with an appointment. So we facilitate that with Reflexis Appointments. The second one is at all times, stores are forced to manage capacity to be safe and to manage the number of people in stores. So Reflexis Appointments enables retailers to be able to, if they have a queue outside, begin a shopping session as they let people in and terminate the shopping session as they leave, so that they can manage capacity and manage that process. And then third, for curbside pickup, we can connect to an existing order system that would tell the customer that their order is complete. They could get an email that says all the details about their order, and then have an "I'm here" button. And when they arrive to the store to pick up their item, they can touch the button on their email or within an app to be able to let the retailer know that that customer is there. So much different world, a new normal, and those are some solutions that help retailers and customers work together.
Thanks so much, Kevin, and thanks so much to all of our speakers from Big Lots, Nick, Monica, and Linda. It's been a great conversation. I know we could go on for hours and hours, but we do have to wrap up right now. So here on the screen, you can see some ways to contact the Reflexis team. And I just want to, again, thank our speakers and thank our audience. You can still register for more sessions in the Retail Reset Virtual Content Hub. And please join us for our next session, Digital Transformation in Retail Accelerated by Crisis, Driven by Customer Data, May 19th at 2 p.m. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.